offered to come in and potentially answer any questions. I don't know if there will be any, but he's much better spoken about this project than I am. But just to set it up here a bit, what I've been asking for is approval on an easement agreement for the 12-acre area that the county owns that lies on the east side of 22nd Street and north along the edge of Chestnut Street from the end of the Hazel Dyke concrete channel to 22nd Street. And back in, I think it was October, you had a presentation about a Quittapahilla Creek restoration project, a floodplain restoration plan project for that area, which admittedly under county's ownership has just sort of passively been wooded land and you know, some overflow when the Hazel Dyke, when there's a flood event, Hazel Dyke will just pour out into it, and but then it gets constricted back again when it goes underneath 22nd Street or sometimes tops over that bridge. So between North Cornwall Township, the Planning Department, the Stormwater Consortium, and some other partners, they have come up with I think a great plan for a floodplain restoration, and this easement is key to it. It's taken months to come up with. So if you want to maybe talk about what the need for this is to get the work done on that. So Scott.
I thought you could have kept going.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring you in if I did so well. I don't know. That was unreal.
So I don't want to waste too much of your time, because I believe Steve Shirk might have been in front of you from our office at one time and gave you a little bit more of a presentation. Basically what we're doing is this is all part of the Lebanon County Stormwater Consortium. So the state, and you're all familiar with the Chesapeake Bay trying to clean stuff up, and so the states are responsible for this, and it's passed down to the individual municipalities to clean up their watersheds, which is what we're doing. So what we're looking at doing, this is kind of our marquee project in the county. It's going to be our first big one. So it really starts at the 22nd Street Bridge and goes a little bit east, might go maybe 1,800 feet east of that. And so you have three properties that the Quittapahilla actually crosses through. And so in order for us to do the work, and what we're looking at doing is, you know, what's happened over the years is we can have all this sediment that has settled out in the bottom of the stream beds, and it just keeps building up, building up. So what we do is we go in and we actually basically dredge it out, clean it out, make the banks of the stream, you know, that area wider so that we have a little bit more storage during floods, you know, so it doesn't come up over the banks, and it cuts back on the erosion. We vegetate it, and they've actually done some of those things in Annville along the Quittapahilla over the years. They've done some projects, and it's going to be very similar to that. I think the Quittapahilla Watershed Association has done some of these things.
Rocky Powell, I believe,
yes,
designed that.
Yep, Rocky's been very, very involved with that. So it's going to be something similar to that. And so what we, like Jamie had mentioned, what we need is easements to do the work within on your property. And then there's a maintenance agreement, and I'm not sure if you've had, you know, I think that has Steve shared it with everybody, the agreements, or is that? Okay. Basically what it says is you're giving us permission to enter the property, to do the construction work, and we're responsible for the first 5 years of any kind of maintenance that would need to take place on this property. What happens is, so when we do this work, each municipality is responsible to get so many pounds of pollutant reductions, and they do these projects to get these things. So what the state would do is they would come in and they would take a look at each year and make sure that the facility is being maintained and that we're actually getting the pollutant reductions that we're supposed to get. Projects like this, it usually takes something less than 5 years for the vegetation to get established, and then we're pretty good, and the erosion is really cut back. So in this particular case, like I said, it's being done by the Lebanon County Stormwater Consortium. So they will oversee the project. They'll make sure it's maintained, and then basically what it's saying is, hey, you guys have no responsibility to maintain it. We take care of it. And then after 5 years, you know, that piece is lifted, and then, you know, we would The easement allows us to continue to come in to take a look at it, but at that point, we're not expected to have any problems, you know, and so we would just have the ability to come in and just do an inspection, make sure everything is still holding up. So that's kind of the gist of what the agreement is. I actually have copies if you need more time. If you haven't seen it and you want to see it, you read in more detail, I have copies and you can do so. But in order for us to move forward with the project, we would need to have these easements in place. We're looking to probably go out to bid, you know, sometime in the fall is what we're looking. Ideally, these projects are done, and then the construction would be in the spring is typically what you like to see. That's the best time to do it. So that's kind of our schedule.
And this is going to look, for those that know what it looks like now, it's going to look drastically different. It's going to be opened up into a, you know, basically a floodplain area without all of the trees and the, you know, the trees that are there. I know every tree means something to somebody, but you know, for the most part, these are not desirable or valuable types of trees. These are trees that have just been able to grow up, and a lot of them we end up having to deal with as they fall onto the utility lines on Chestnut Street, because they only get so big and then they decay and start falling down. So
exactly. I mean, we have a PowerPoint presentation, and you know, I can email this to you if you guys want to see it. But you know, this is probably no surprise. This is pictures of what those banks look like now. And here's another one, so you can see that's heavily eroding. And so what we do, now this is a you know, kind of an exhibit of another project that was done. So here's your existing stream channels, and you can see this brown here is that legacy sediment that builds up over time, and then that's what's subject to the erosion. And what we end up doing, and it's maybe not quite as clear here, but we actually, might be best to go with this. So what we end up doing is we dredge all this out, okay? And so you can see if we take that out, now we've got additional storage for floodplain, and then we vegetate that area. We may need to reroute the stream beds a little bit, you know, just to make things, you know, optimize, you know, how it works. This is all permitted through the state. So we actually had the permit from DP to do the work. So we've gotten through that stage. And like I said, now we're starting to prepare the construction documents.
It looks like there's a stone wall or something there. Is that part of your plan?
You mean over here, maybe?
The brown, from here it looks like a stone wall.
it's just a cross section, I think.
It's a cross section, yeah. So what this brown here is just a sediment that's built up over all these years. And what ends up happening is then when you get heavy rain events, you know, this stuff starts eroding these banks, and it gets washed down and eventually finds its way to the Chesapeake.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're taking this out so that doesn't happen anymore, and then we get the pollutant reduction loadings that we need to comply with for the Chesapeake Bay, you know, regulations. So that's kind of the gist of what we're doing.
Just because it's been a while, how many parties are with the consortium? Can you just...
So there's 6 parties that are part of it. It's Cleona, it's North Cornwall, South Lebanon, Annville,
City?
I missed it, and the city. Yeah, they're the big ones. Yep. So, and it's actually it's really an impressive.
Is North Lebanon not a part?
I'm sorry, North Lebanon too. Yep, they're in it as well. Yeah, you talk about watching a group of municipalities work together in an effective way. They do it. It's really impressive to watch them work. Yeah.
And this will also dovetail with the realignment of the bridge on 22nd Street. It's gonna, I think they're gonna work hand in hand a little bit there to replace that bridge. Maybe not at the same time, but
exactly.
it'll be factored into what's being done here.
That would be the next piece. That's the second phase of this. So, as part, and North Cornwall's involved in that, and they're redoing the 22nd Street Bridge. So, we'll be doing the work east of that right now. Once all that gets worked out, I believe they're working with PennDOT on that. Once they get, and of course North Cornwall Township. Once that gets resolved, then that would be the restoration of that piece would be a part of that project then too.
I have a question concerning the removed sediment. Where does it go and what does it choose?
So right now, what we're looking to do is we have an outfit. The ultimate destination has yet to be determined. So
Is
we're
what,
not.
oh, yet to be
Yeah,
determined?
yeah. We have a group that's taking soil samples, and they will look at it, and then they, you know, based on what the quality is, they can use it other areas, you know, the last resort would be, I mean, one of the places you could do is take it to the landfill, but you can use it in other areas, and we can, you know, there's a lot of restrictions as to where you take soil from one site and try to put it on another. It's got to be clean. So that's in progress right now. We're not sure where it's going to go yet.
When you say the landfill, would they use it for cover?
They probably would.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And how long, I know naturally, open areas fill in. I mean, that's what nature does. How long will this redesign last before it becomes similar to what it is now?
Well, I mean, what the intent of this project is that it won't do that. It won't go back to where it was, and you won't be exposed as much to the erosion that you see now. Because what you're really doing is you're taking all this out, so you're actually you're widening that area. And so when you get a heavy rain event, the impact, like right now, if you get a heavy rain event, okay, you've got all that water's coming through this small area. And so it's just eroding these banks out. And what we do here is when we take all this out, now when we get a heavy rain event, it kind of dissipates throughout this whole area. You get a little bit, it's not as abrasive as the water's coming down the stream, and you don't erode as much. So,
Well, my schooling taught me something different, and that is that creeks used to be lower, and as the banks washed away and the ground filled in the bottom, the creek rose and became shallower and wider. And so, again, that's going to fill in eventually because the flooding just does destruction, as Jamie mentioned. Trees fall. It doesn't matter what kind of trees, they're going to eventually fall. It's what happens. But they also protect the water because it holds the ground in place, and they provide tree canopies to keep the water cooler, which improves the fish habitat. There's a lot going on there, but eventually it will fill in.
yeah, you will get some, but this is definitely a better layout than what's there now. How long it will take, I mean,
You don't know.
I mean, these projects, you know, have really only come about since the Chesapeake Bay regs have been in place. So
Is it safe?
what I can tell you is it's a better situation. You know, it's a better situation than what we have
It's going
today.
to be a drastic improvement.
Yeah, yeah.
You were going to say, none of us will be here, right? Is that what
Well,
you're
I
going to
was thinking, would 200 years cover it? Okay.
I was just, so I appreciate all of that, Scott. That was a long way to get to an easement, but I know Commissioner Kuhn wasn't here when we first covered this back in last year sometime, so. Solicitor Dave Warner, along with Amy Leonard, who works on behalf of the consortium, I think, spent quite a bit of time putting this together back and forth, and it's, so it's meets his approval and everyone's approval and being recommended. Just by way of history, you know, the property the county owns there came about, as I understand it, as residual land to when the Hazel Dyke was built. So the redevelopment authority came through after Agnes and acquired everything that the Hazel Dyke sits on and built it. And whether, you know, it was designed to end where it is or it had to end where it is, I'm not sure, but what was remaining down between there and down to 22nd Street then was deeded to the county. So there we sit.
I do have one other question, please. I think I read in, I think it was the Daily News, forgive me if it was Lebanon, but it was one of the two, an article where Sheets is going to be moving in where a bank is now, near 22nd and Cumberland. And will there be any additional restrictions on them with building or developing that site because of this project?
That I can't answer.
Yeah, that's-
I'm not familiar with even sheets coming in there.
It's not a consortium,
Yeah,
either.
that would be outside,
It's the township.
yeah, that would be a North Lebanon Township matter.
I
No,
think it's, I think it's.
North Cornwall on the
Oh, it's
south
north,
side.
so you're on the south side,
I
okay.
think it's that mini
Yes.
golf or arcade
Oh, okay.
is
Yeah.
in between
Yep,
it.
yep,
So it's that
yep.
property, and then up along 422, used to be Ponderosa a long time ago, if you remember it that
Yeah.
way. but
Oh, yeah.
That's the site, I think.
Okay.
It's a bank now, it's next to the gas station.
Yeah, so, I
Right.
mean, that would be subject to North Cornwall Township reviews, and of
Okay.
course, they're active, I mean, they're actually the entity that you're actually giving the easement to, because the consortium isn't an official registered entity, so what we do is we use the municipality in which the project is being located in, and they administer the project. So in this case, North Cornwall is gonna administer the project, and obviously, I mean, you know, they have their own ordinances that they have to follow, and I'm sure this'll come into play when you're reviewing
I
the
didn't know if there
plans.
was pipes coming in that would interfere, and they should be aware of it at this time.
That, I can't
You don't
answer,
know.
I have no idea what's being proposed on that site.
Okay.
Okay, it's time for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the easement agreement for the Quittapahilla watershed project that is being proposed by the consortium consisting of the city of Lebanon, Cleona, North Cornwall, South Annville, and North Lebanon townships.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion beyond what we've had? Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate everything.
Tim, do you want me to just leave this with you? I got 3
We
copies
can,
of
we
it.
use